Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk. It's my great honor to be here and to talk to you about applied linguistics in China. You know, there are about 400 million people, students, who are learning English in instructed classroom context currently in China. So it's not surprising for the large number of research in the teaching and learning of languages, particularly with a focus on English. So in this talk, I'm going to present a landscape about the academia in applied linguistics in China, with a focus on learning and teaching of a second language, so English in particular. And because you can see this is a very broad topic, and it's very difficult for me to cover everything in this 1 hour talk. So this is my plan. First, I will talk about a picture of higher education in China in general. So this is like to say all the disciplines, not linguistics in particular. Especially, I'm going to talk about the new university plan called Double First Class University Plan. So you know something more about the university development policy in China. After that, I will narrow down to those universities that are leading the field of applied linguistics. And then I will give a more detailed presentation of the academia of applied linguistics, centering upon some major associations, some influential conferences, and well-known scholars in our field. Finally, I would say something about university teachers' career paths and how they get promoted in this Chinese educational context, which I believe some of you might be interested in. So there are 2 areas most relevant to teachers' career development. One is publication and the other is funding projects. And before I start, I want you to note that by referring to China in this talk, I'm talking about mainland China only. Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan are not included in this talk. And much of what I will cover in this talk, for example, the university development plan, the policies regarding publication and fundings, just do not apply to them. Okay. So first, I will give you a picture of higher education in China. This is a group of data in 2017. So there are 2,631 higher education institutions in China. Among them, there are 1,243 universities. And here, the university refers to both public and private ones. And you know, very different from the US here, in China, the public universities are always the good ones. And there are 265 independent colleges. I guess you don't know something about, you don't know these independent colleges. So this are kind of cooperation of public universities with some enterprises or associations, or even some persons for undergraduate education. So they are usually named after some universities, but they are independent in terms of finance, involvement, management, etc. So they are called independent colleges. And there are 1,388 higher vocational colleges. So for these higher vocational colleges, the graduates only get college degree instead of bachelor degree. I worked in a higher vocational college after I got my master's for 8 years. And then after I got my PhD degree, I moved to a public university in Guangzhou. I don't know if you have heard of projects like 211 and 985 in China. These 2 projects have been established for more than 20 years now, but they have been widely used to describe the quality of university. So by referring to 211, we are saying like this university is like one of the top 100 ones in China. And for those universities included in 985, that's like, this is really a prestigious University. So this has been used for a long time in China. And we also have some even elite group of some universities like C9 which is surprisingly very well known to some Westerners, but not actually that well known in China. But we have some very seminal ones, like the top 10 university, the most famous, like 5 to 10 universities, something like that. And here is something new. So in 2015, 5 years ago, Chinese government initiated this new education development initiative called Double First Class University Plan. So this is, first of all, this is very different from this project 211 or 985 in that these two projects are quite stable. So once a university is a 211, it's a 211 forever. But this double first class university plan is more dynamic. So 5 years is around, every 5 years, it will have a new listing of the universities. In 2017, September 2017, that's the first round of enlisted university were announced. So altogether, there were 42 world first-class universities. Or we also call these universities like double first-class university. So if you have heard of that, that's what it means. And there are 95 first-class academic discipline universities. This is saying that these 95 universities are not qualified to get into double first class university, but they have some academic discipline that are among the top 3 or 4 in China, and they are listed here. Before I show you the map here, I want to say that in terms of foreign language and literature, and in the academic disciplines of linguistics and modern linguistics, 9 universities altogether get enlisted in this 95 first-class academic discipline. All right, so now I'm going to show you a map of China. Okay, I hope you can see it clearly, but it might be a little bit small here. So I want to explain a little bit. This is a map of double first, if you can see it here, double first class university in mainland China. And you can see there are some universities in red. Those are the double first class universities. And you can see some universities in blue. These are the universities with first class discipline. Okay, I hope that's not too confusing. So now let's look at the map. And I know that China is a big country and it's complex there. So I hope this can clarify a little bit. So first, let's look at Beijing. You can see the pen, right? You can see I have marked it. Okay, good. So first, let's look at Beijing. So of all China, Beijing has the most number of universities. This is the group of universities enlisted in Beijing. And then another city very close to Beijing, I think only 2 hours drive, is Tianjin. You can see this, there are 2 double first class universities and 4 more. Okay, so this is, if you know something about China, you might know that Beijing has always been an educational center. It has the best and the most educational resources of all China. Okay, and this testified this. And after that, if I would look at Nanjing, and this is Shanghai. So these 2 cities are close to each other. They are called Yangtze River Delta in China. And this Yangtze River Delta is well known for its economy and also for its education. If you add the universities in these 2 cities here and here, then you can see there are really very good universities in that area. Okay, The third place I would like to point out is Wuhan. I know Wuhan is now very famous, but you should also know that if you look at the position, you can see it's in the very center of China. It's very famous for its transportation, and also traditionally is educational province. I mean, educationally resourceful province and the city. The top, see, Wuhan University, that's where I spent my 4 years as an undergraduate. It's one of the top 10 universities in China. And I remember when we prepared for Gaokao, the entrance examination into universities in China, we just want to get some exercise books and to look at some exams from Wuhan. So this can tell us in terms of education resources, is really one of the best. Okay, and then there might be some people who are saying, what about the South? So let's look a little bit at the South. We have Guangzhou here, right? So, and there are 5, 2 double first class university and 3 more here. But compared with other cities, you can see the number is not that good because Guangdong province is like one of the richest province in all China in terms of economy, but in terms of education, it's a little bit lagging behind. Okay, and since we have covered the East, South, and North, let's say something about the West. If you look at the Chengdu here, and you can see actually this is the North, and it's actually a very huge area. And maybe like 1/4 of all China in terms of the area. But you can see there are few, very, very few good universities in this part of China. So Chengdu, I think now Chinese government has some favorable policies towards in the western part of China. Chengdu is a city with very favorable policies. So I think this is a very promising city. Okay, so that's the map of China. And now, okay. So now I will narrow down to the elite universities in our academic discipline, that is applied linguistics. Okay. So first, I want to mention these 3 universities. They are Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. So just now I got you to know about the 3 cities. The 3 universities in Beijing, that is Beijing Foreign Studies University, Shanghai International Studies University, and Guangdong University of Foreign Studies. And we have some short names for them, short terms. That's Beiwai, Shanwai, and Guangwai. This Bei, Shang, Guang are short form for the 3 cities. And this Y, it means foreign. It's a short term for Foreign Studies University. Okay. And by the way, I have always introduced myself as coming from the South. I studied in Guangwai for my master's and the PhD. So I know this part of China and also maybe including Wuhan a little bit better than the East and the North. Okay, other than these 3 foreign studies universities, we have a group of other universities who also have very good education, and they have a group of good teachers, and they are doing very well, very good research in applied linguistics. So this includes some comprehensive universities like Peking University, Fudan, Zhejiang, Nanjing, Sun Yat-sen University, Huazhong University of Science and Technology, Ocean University of China. So like all the universities I just named, they are also in the double first class university plan. So they are the first group in the first rank. There are also some other international studies or foreign studies university like Dalian, Dalian that's a foreign language school in Dalian, in Xi'an and Sichuan. So these are some of the best universities in terms of applied linguistics in both teaching and research in China. But this is not a complete list. So I guess there are some few very good ones, but I have not listed here. Okay, so now you have a general understanding of the universities in applied linguistics. I'm going to turn the talk to some associations, conferences, and scholars in our field. So I will first talk about the association. There is one association that is very closely relevant to our applied linguistics research area. This is called China Association for Comparative Studies of English and Chinese. Yeah, I thought before I searched for the title of this association, I thought it would say something like linguistics or applied linguistics, but no, this is the title. Okay, so what is it? It's a non-profit academic association in social science. And the research in this association cover the areas of English studies, Chinese studies, comparative studies of languages and literature in English and Chinese, translation, etc. So you can see there are some overlappings with our applied linguistics, but also some others like translation. I would say that although it says it covers the field of Chinese studies, but I do think there is another association whose name, I don't know, that is totally devoted to Chinese studies. This is a national first-class association, and under this one, there are a lot of secondary associations. We can go through them. So like SLA, Second Language Acquisition, I'm going to concentrate on this one a little bit later. English language teaching, and then cognitive linguistics, discourse analysis, English for academic or specific purpose, functional linguistics, psychological, forensic linguistics, testing, evaluation, and translation. So if we look at the secondary associations, we can see these are the branches or disciplines or research areas that we are very familiar with. I'm going to introduce the leading characters in this field, not in this field, but in this association. So this is the president, Luo Xuanmin, in Tsinghua University. His research area is translation. And there are 4 other vice presidents. Actually, there are 3 more vice presidents, but I just put the 4 here. This one is Huang Guowen. His research area is systemic functional linguistics and discourse analysis. In 2011 to 2014, he was the president of International SFL Association. He used to work, and he was the dean of Shenyang University in Guangzhou, also in Guangzhou, for maybe 10 to 20 years. In 2016, he went to South China Agricultural University. That's the university I've been working at. So that is to say, he's my dean now. And then he began this new branch called eco-linguistics or ecological linguistics. Yeah, he's now the leading figure in this field in China, and also a very active person in the international field of eco-linguistics. He's also editor-in-chief of Foreign Languages in China. This is one of the prestigious journals in China. I will talk about it later. He's also the past president of Discourse Analysis Association. The next person, Zhuang Zixiang from Shanghai. He's editor-in-chief of Foreign Language World. His research area covers something like translation, teaching, lexicography. He also is the chairman of the press called Shanghai Foreign Language Education Press. This is Dong Yanping. She used to work in Guangwai for about 20 years. Last year, in 2019, she went to Zhejiang University, so it's a big loss for Guangwai, actually. Her research area covers psychological linguistics, bilingual processing, neurolinguistics, cognition in interpreting, etc. She's the first president of Psychological Linguistics Association, so this one of the secondary associations. She was also the chair of my own PhD dissertation defense committee. The last one here, the last vice president of this association, Wen Qiufang from Beiwai. She's editor-in-chief of 2 good journals in China. Her research area is mainly SLA and also English language teaching. I think she began her research focusing on learner strategy and language assessment and testing, but then she also expanded quite a lot. And talking about Wen Qiufang, I would like to say something about original teaching approach that she has proposed. So this approach is called production-oriented approach. This is a teaching approach that Wen and some of her followers and her students proposed, I think, beginning in 2015. And since then, during the past 5 years, they have done a lot of research about this approach. And this is currently a very, very hot topic in China, a very hot research area. And many people are following them to do that research. Okay. This is a paper when published in Language Teaching in 2018. So in this paper, she gives a very detailed introduction of what the approach is about and how it is used to teach university students English in China. Okay. I'm sorry, this is in Chinese, but don't worry, I will explain it to you. So this one has published a lot of articles in Chinese journals about this POA. I can't find anything in English, so I'm using one of the this figure she used in her Chinese article. So this figure is the theoretical framework of POA. Okay. And you can see that in this framework, there are 3 components. The first component here is called teaching principles. The second one is teaching hypothesis. And the third one is the teaching processes. Okay, so I will explain them. So the first one, the teaching principles, there are 3 of them. The first one is called learning-centered principle. And then learning using integration principle and whole person education principle. And the teaching hypothesis include output-driven hypothesis, input-enabling hypothesis, and selective learning hypothesis. And you can see there are 3 stages in the teaching processes, including motivating, enabling, and assessing. And this is saying like teacher mediated. So this framework is more adjusted to Chinese teaching contexts and to the Chinese students. So if you are interested, you can go to download the language teacher paper I just show you. Now I will move on. Okay, we just talked about this association, and now we are talking about the secondary association. I'm going to focus on this one called China Association of SLA because my research area is mainly SLA. This is Yang Lian Rui. He is the current president of this association. He's also the Dean of Foreign Language School of Ocean University of China. His major research area is something like interlanguage, pragmatic competence development, dynamic system theory. This is Jin Limin from Beiwai. She is the past president, the current past president of this association. She's also the Dean of Office of Teaching Affairs in Beiwai. And her research area is rather broad, including pedagogical reform, curriculum design, etc. But I think these two, they're more familiar with this administrative work. And this is Wang Chumin from Guangwai. He is the first president and the founder of this SLA association. So in my mind, he's more like a pure scholar among the three. Okay. He's also one of the biggest names in SLA and in applied linguistics in China. So I would say Wen Qiufang and Wang Chumin, so they are the leading figures in SLA in China. And since we talk about Wang Chumin, I'm going to introduce his own theory. This is a learning theory called, this is how Wang calls it, X argument. My way of translating it is a little bit different. I call it Xu theory, but I will explain. So according to Wang, both language learning and learning efficiency are driven by Xu. Okay, this Xu is a Chinese character. This is the character, and this is the pinyin. It means, it has a composite meaning, like completion, extension, and creation. So Wang also calls it CEC, completion, extension, and creation. So this Xu theory can be used in dialogues and writing, both of them. He's saying that typical extension occurs in dialogues when interlocutors complete and then extend preceding speech in a creative way. And this extension or creation, or continuation of writing task is also helpful if learners imitate the language and then create the content. Okay. So this is, according to Wang, this Xu theory or X argument can facilitate interaction, which has some effect on alignment and finally results in learning. This is not only effective for language learning, but also can enhance language learning efficiency. This is an article published by Wang Chumin and Wang Min. Wang Min is his former PhD student. This is about effect of alignment on out to written production, published in Applied Linguistics in 2014. This Xu theory was actually proposed in 2015, so 1 year after the publication of this article. But from this article, there was some of his ideas in this part of the framework about alignment and interaction. And this is most recent article. I think it's in Language Teaching Research, published by, okay, this is on the continuation task. That's the task that this Xu theory has proposed. Continuation task, or this dialogue in which, dialogues or writing task. Okay, so now we're coming to the conferences. The first conference I want to mention is called International Symposium on SLA Research in China, organized by China Association of SLA. That's one of the secondary associations I mentioned to you. This is held every 2 years. And this year, SLA 2020 will be held by Shanghai in November. The theme of this conference is SLA Research in Global Context, Innovations and Challenges. Okay, right. Sorry. Okay, I want to show you this one. This is SLA 2018. That's the 8th session of this symposium. I also attended this conference in Qingdao. It's organized by Ocean University of China. So you can see the characters in blue are the main topics for the conferences, or the sub-things, the sessions of the conference. And the names in red are the chairman for each session. So a very something special about this conference is that for each branch, they have assigned a chairman for that. And then as participants, we need to submit our abstracts directly to the chairperson here, not to the conference. And this chairperson, they stay in that session from the first day, it's for 2 days. So for 2 days, from morning to the evening. Yeah, they're doing a hard job. They need to do a lot, actually. Okay, so now we can go through them and look at what topics the SLAs are interested in China. So first, we have the 4 approaches to SLA. The linguistic approach led by Chang Hui. Oh yeah, I want to add that for this chairperson, they are I would say, the most well-recognized and very productive person in the research area. Yeah, or maybe like one of, they can represent this research area. And then psychological approach by Chen Sifa, cognitive approach by Zhang Hui, social cultural approach. This is led by Xu Jingfen. Cross-linguistic influence, one of the main leading figure is Cai Jinting. And then you can see these two, POA and Xu theory. They receive a lot of presenters in that field. Yeah. And then we have L2 programmatic competence development led by Leng Wei. I will say something more about Leng Wei a little bit later. And then there are people who are doing dynamic system theory led by Zheng Yongyan. And then instructed SLA by Zhang Wenzhong. So I was here at that time. Zhang Wenzhong is one of my seniors. And then we have 2 more groups, Chinese as second language studies and studies of other languages, including Spanish, Japanese, French, German, Arabic, etc. Okay. All right. So I just mentioned a group of very well-known figures in China, but it's a pity that although they are very influential in China, they have not been very active in the international academia. So in this page, I'm going to introduce to you a few more scholars who are more active internationally. Okay. So the first few, so these are included as 2019 most cited Chinese researchers in applied linguistics by Elsevier. There are a few people in our field. So the first one is Liu Meihua from Tsinghua University. Her research area include learner individual difference, and especially on anxiety and motivation. She's also interested in foreign language writing, but I think she was the most active in around 2015. So in recent years, she is not that active as before. And then we have Liu Haitao. Wow, this is a big name. His research area is computational linguistics, corpus linguistics, and language planning and policy. I think he has been like most cited Chinese researcher for a consecutive of 6 or 7 years. And then there are 3 more scholars. This is Zhou Xiaolin from Beijing University, and Su Hua and Xue Gui, both from Beijing Normal University. Beijing Normal University is very famous for their cognitive linguistics and psychological linguistics. So all the 3 of them, they are mainly interested in this cognitive psychology, neuropsychology, children's cognitive development, neuroscience, cognitive linguistics, etc. Okay. Besides the 5 researchers here, I would like to say that in China, there are some, but not many, young scholars who had some overseas study background, who now published a lot in mainstream international journals, and who also participate regularly in some international conferences. I would like to introduce to you 2 representatives of them. So the first one is Leng Wei. He does research mainly in terms of L2 pragmatic development in study abroad context. He has published very broadly in Applied Linguistics, Journal of Pragmatics, Language Teaching, ELT Journal, etc. So he got his master's in Cambridge and then his PhD in Bristol. After that, he came back to China. He went to Guangwai for his postdoc study. His mentor was the vice president of the university. So that's when I met him, because his first year as a postdoc was my first year as a PhD. So I think he is a very good example showing that those people who study abroad and then they come back to China, they became very successful. So he worked in Guangwai for 2 or 3 years. After that, he went to Beihang University in Beijing. He's now a professor, and also he's supervising PhD students. So I think he actually represents a very successful example of people who go back to China and have a very good career. The next person is Lei Lei. I don't know if you know him. He's from Huazhong University of Science and Technology. His major research area is corpus linguistics. He has published in Applied Linguistics, International Journal of Corpus Linguistics, Journal of English for Academic Purposes, etc. So I learned that he received his education in China, but he has gone to the US, Australia, and England as visiting researchers for several years. So I think he can also represent the young, promising, and also very internationally active researchers in China. Yeah, both of them. Okay. There are 2 more conferences I would like to tell you about SLA and also about language teaching. So the second one is called RoboEnglish Education China Assembly. It's organized by TISO, Sangwai, and China Daily. It's held every year. I want to show you something about the 2019 conference. So, you know, Rod Ellis and Peter Skehan, they talk about TBLT in this assembly. And also we have the organizers invited 2 plenary speakers from the enterprise. So this is Zhong, the vice president of Tencin, And this is Lin, Vice President of iTutor Group. So these two companies, they are very famous companies in China in terms of online education and technology. And especially this iTutor Group is educational technology company. So it's very good that they are now trying to incorporating this artificial intelligence, big data, and the cloud platform. That's what we call ABC. Okay, and then to interpret them with the intelligent teaching and research. That's this conference. And the last conference is called International Conference on English Language Teaching, ELT in China. It's held every 3 years. So I know that in 2017, the 8th session was held by Xi'an International Studies University. Okay, this is the new one. And right, I'm still talking about the 2017 conference. They invited some plenary speakers, including Nick Ellis, who talked on usage-based SLA, interface between implicit and explicit learning. They also invited Claire Cranch to talk on translating culture in the language classroom. Okay. And there are a few more conferences on teaching and researching EFL writing, cognitive linguistics, corpus linguistics, social linguistics, psycholinguistics, and forensic linguistics, and so on. Yeah. So, okay, I don't want to look at the time. In the last section of the talk, I'm going to say something that is closely relevant to a language teacher's career path. So for us, there are two things that are most relevant. The first one is, of course, publication. But something very unique in China, yeah, I used the word unique in China, is that in China, only journal publication and the first author count. So what does that mean? That's to say, the papers included in edited volumes, and even the papers published in some special issues of a journal doesn't count in terms of professional promotion or assessment of tenure track. Also, those papers published as the second or third author don't count. So because here, I mean, doesn't count means when assessing that person, usually they will not include the publication as a second author or a third author. So a way to, you know, because there can only be one first author for an article. So a way to solve this problem is to make use of this correspondent author system. So in China, correspondent author doesn't actually mean the author that the readers write to. They are more like the status of correspondent author is like close to first author. Okay. I hope I have made that clear, but you can ask me questions if I have not. And then there are the rankings of different journals. So first we have SSCI journal, Social Science Citation Index. Excuse me. This is the highest rank. That refers to the mainstream prestigious journals in the international academia. And then in China, we have this CSSCI journal. So the first C, of course, refers to China. We have a short term for it. That's the C journal. Okay. And we also have the core journal. These two are referring to the best, the most prestigious journals in China. They are also a bit different in that the C journal refers to a compilation of journals by Nanjing University. is usually more strict. Like there are about 9 to 10 journals in the field of applied linguistics, only 9 to 10. And this core journal is compiled by Beijing University every 2 years. So every 2 years, the rankings may change a little bit. There are 13 journals included as the core journals. I will show you later. And then among these core journals, there's a further category, ranking. I don't like the word authoritative, so I just say the first level journal and then the second level journal. We have another category, neither SSCI or core journal. So usually, if you want to get a promotion and if you publish in this others category, it's just almost useless. And okay, very funny thing, like in my university, I will tell you the calculation they are doing, like one SSCI journal is equivalent to 2 first level journal when they are, doing the promotion or assessment. And one first level journal is equivalent to 3 second level journal. So at all, it goes down to math. Yeah, very interesting. The other thing I would like to talk about is funding project. This is very, very important for a teacher's career development and also very difficult. Sometimes I feel that getting a funding project is even more difficult than publishing an SSCI journal. And this funding project is not for the purpose of getting funding, although it's called a funding project, is for the purpose of because it's connected with this assessment and promotion and everything like that. There are the official funding projects in all levels, from the national to the university level. So the higher the level, the more difficult to obtain. But being a hoster of a funding project is an indispensable criteria in assessing someone's tenure track. So the success rate is very low. For example, this provincial level, like Guangdong Provincial Social Science Project, for every 100 teachers who apply for it, only 6 people can actually get it. So the success rate is very low, it's highly competitive. And here presents the core journals in applied linguistics. So that's the first 3 are what we called first level journals, only 3 of them. And then the other 10 are what we called second level journals. And if we look at the hosting universities, actually we can find some equivalence with what I introduced before about the prestigious universities in our field. So you can see the first 3, they are Beiwai, Shanghai, and this is Xi'an International Studies University. So I want to say something about the third position. For like 20 years, it has always been this one, Modern Foreign Languages, hosted by Guangwai. So this Beiwai, Shanghai, and Guangwai, they occupy the first 3 positions in this table for like 20 years. But now Guangwai is actually decreasing, which I am very sad to see because I have this connection with Guangwai. But now Xi'an Y is taking the 3rd position in the latest version of this. And then Shanghai again, and then this is Dalian Y. This is the only higher education press. This is the only press instead of the universities as the hosting institutions. And you can see there are some other universities. Okay. The last one, this is the funding projects I just told you. So this is a more detailed page on these different levels of funding projects, the title of the funding projects, and they are organizers. Okay. So At the end of the talk, I would like to quote a very well-known Chinese poem to encourage all of you who during this crisis have struggled a lot and experienced some hardships and difficulties. Okay. This is a very well-known Chinese poem. I want to see the expressions in some of the Chinese people's face now, because when they look at it, they will smile. This is 山穷水尽疑无路，柳暗花明又一村. Okay, to translate it, it's like for someone who has come across endless mountains and rivers and who would like to find some people or find housing, but at the point when that person is helpless, hopeless, and almost desperate, he finds that suddenly a village is shaded in soft willows and bright flowers. Okay. Thank you, everyone.